Hey, Brian. Hey,
Hey,
everyone. How's it going?
it's great.
Good. Let's kick this thing off. Hello, and welcome to Python Bytes, where we deliver Python news and headlines directly to your earbuds. This is episode 402, recorded September 23rd, 2024. I'm Michael Kennedy.
And I'm Brian Ocken.
And this episode is brought to you by Scout APM. We'll tell you more about them later. If you want to keep up with us or the show, follow us on Mastodon. Links are in the show notes, or over on X. If you really want to, you can find the links there in the footer of the website. We typically live stream on Mondays now. We used to do Tuesdays. Remember, we moved to Mondays. So Mondays, 10 a.m. Pacific time on YouTube. If you want to check that out, we'd love to have you. Always great to have people in the audience, but certainly not a requirement. And finally, if you want to get an artisanal, handcrafted summary put together by your very own Brian Ocken about the show right after it ships, sign up for the newsletter. Just go to pythonbytes.fm/ right there and just click newsletter right at the front. It's probably the easiest way, actually. Put in your email. We won't do bad things with it. We'll just send you updates. So, and things about like horses and other stuff.
Courses. Okay.
Horses, courses for horses. No, this is a totally different kind of show. If we go down that path, let's. What path do you want to take us down?
Let's make some decisions. How about that?
Ooh, yes. Okay.
So this was suggested to me actually at a work setting. A friend of mine, Christian Gazelle, said, "Hey, architectural decision records are pretty cool. Do you use them?" And I had not heard of these things, so I was excited to explore the rabbit hole. So, this was there's an article that we're going to link to. This is the original from 2011 called "Documenting Architecture Decisions" from Michael Nygaard, and it's kind of this idea that you just have this lightweight document to discuss things like what you're deciding about, what the context is, what the current situation is, um, and then the decision, what you're going to do. And so the context is why you're doing it. The decision is what you're going to do. And then, status, like whether you're proposing it or whatever. I'm playing with status right now. So, and then the consequences, what you hope to will be the benefits of this decision. This seems like so silly and simple that it can't be helpful, but it is awesome. And I've started using it just for a few days. So we'll see. But so there's another article I'd like to link to, and it's from Red Hat called "Why You Should Be Using ADRs or Architecture Decision Records to Document Your Project," and that's a really nice lightweight introduction, and it shows you basically you just a handful of things, and there's a bunch of templates people are using. I'm using Markdown. Um, and I'm going to show you essentially the template I'm using. It's just a markdown file, and I've got like a template, just a 000 ADR template.md that I just copy, paste, modify, and it's just a few lines. And sometimes I just put none in. If I'm not considering any options, I'll just put none, but I might fill it in later. But including pros and cons for options. This is really only taking me a few minutes to get the stuff that I'm thinking about of the project and the things I want to change out of my head and somewhere. And since it's in Markdown and I'm storing it with the code in the repository, it works great because it's GitHub or GitLab just renders it. It's Markdown, so it just gets rendered and it looks beautiful. But it's super fast to just write this down. And I'm already and so the stat. Okay, I want to talk about the status a little bit. The proposed status, the status that was recommended in the original is like proposed, accepted, rejected, deprecated, superseded, and it's kind of formally. So I've been using things like trying it out, um, haven't decided yet, because I'm like documenting the process as I'm going. And I'm guessing like by the time I say accepted, I'm going to stop editing these documents. But I've got a couple architecture things that I'm just trying out, playing with, being agile about it. And it's helping me to actually go even just back a day to say, what was I thinking yesterday? And having that written down someplace. And then I'm also working with a remote team, so it's good to have the remote team to be able to, like, they can see what I'm thinking by reading these docs, and other people can do it too. So anyway, highly recommend architecture decision records.
Yeah, that's great. One thing that's might be cool to pair this with
But
is the old style GitHub projects, not the crummy new ones, but the good old ones,
okay.
where you have Kanban boards and they go through different stages, right? So the status could be the columns of your projects, and you could have just a project for decisions, and you could just see where they've gone, and maybe somehow reference. I don't know.
Yeah,
You might have
and
to create an issue or something to link it all together through GitHub, but that'd be cool.
definitely, and I've seen there's a bunch of people that have done a bunch of extra stuff on top of this to make it more processy, but to me, now it feels official, and I don't want it to feel official. I want it to just be like dumping
Yeah,
stuff out of my head. There's also
yeah,
a different thing of, like, how much things do you put in there? Is it everything? Is it just big important architectural changes? And that you just sort of have. I'm just playing with it to see what it is. I'm not putting bug fixes in here, but I'm putting things like, I'm really
yeah, yeah.
changing a component, taking it here and moving it over here. Why am I doing that?
Right.
Sort of
We're
thing.
switching from Fast API to Flask, and
Yeah,
here's
definitely.
why, something like that, right?
So, yeah.
Theoretically. Awesome. Well, let's go to the sea
Okay.
and visit some narwhals. So I just had this project, had Marco Gorelli on Talk Python. This is a project he's doing a lot of work with, and narwhals, it solves the problem. You can see their logo if you go to their website. Is a pandas and a polar bear and a narwhal kind of hanging out behind them. And the idea is if you are writing a library that takes a data frame source, right? So if you have users who are doing pandas and you want to write a library and say, hey, send me your pandas data frame and I'll graph it or I'll analyze it or I'll do AI around it or whatever it is you're doing with it. You will probably get a message, issue or something that says, hey, we'd like you to use polars. How do I work with that? I don't want to convert everything to pandas. I want to use polars. Like, now how do I take these two? And then you're like, well, we actually use Modin or we use CubeHigh for GPU programming. Can we pass our data frames? You're like, great. Because nobody wants to convert out of their native framework into this thing and into some other one because it's probably going to make it slow. Like if you convert out of a GPU into pandas, well, what's the point, So that's what the goal of this narwhals thing is. It lets you it's primarily for people who are creating graphing libraries, analysis libraries, others that can take all these different frameworks,
Okay.
right? And then what you do as the library writer is you use a subset of the Polars API, a real simple one, program. It comes from Narwhals, but it's the same API, right? And so you basically do that. And then Narwhals itself knows how to figure out which data frame library you're working with, how to work with it. If it's polars and it's lazy operations, it won't turn it into eager operations. It'll continue to be lazy until it gets evaluated, which is really good for performance and memory. But if it's an eager API from pandas, also that. Very low overhead if you go check it out. Full static typing, lots of promises of stability because the point is to be a foundational library for other libraries, not cutting edge new features. So anyway, if people are out there and they want to work with multiple frameworks for whatever reason, especially if you're creating libraries that you want to let people from different slices of the data science world use, then this is pretty awesome.
So do you know, it's not converting things as it brings it in, it's leaving it in the native data.
Yes, exactly. Yeah,
Okay.
exactly. That's part of the bonus here is that it does that. And then basically you write to a subset of the Polars API, but then Narwhal says, okay, well, is it really a
Yeah,
pandas thing
what's the real
or
type?
whatever? Yeah, what's the
This is
underlying thing?
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, neat.
I don't have a direct use for it because I don't data science as much, but I think it's cool and wanted to share it. It will be on Talk Python in much greater detail than I just explained in a couple of weeks. You can find it on the Talk Python live stream YouTube section already, but the full edited version will be out later.
All right. That's pretty cool.
Yes, indeed. It sure is. How about we talk about our sponsor real quick, Brian, before we move on?
That sounds great.
Let me tell you real quick about Scout APM. They're big supporters of Python Bytes, so we appreciate that very much. So if you are tired of spending hours trying to find the root cause of issues impacting your performance, then you owe it to yourself to check out Scout APM. They're a leading Python application performance monitoring tool, APM, that helps you identify and solve performance abnormalities faster and easier. Scout APM ties bottlenecks such as memory leaks, slow database queries, background jobs, and the dreaded N+1 queries that you can end up if you do lazy loading in your ORM. And then you say, oh no, why is it so slow? Why are you doing 200 database queries for what should be one? So you can find out things like that. And it links it back directly to the source code so you can spend less time in the debugger and tailing logs and just finding the problems and moving on. And you'll love it because it's built for developers by developers. It makes it easy to get set up. Seriously, you can do it in less than 4 minutes. So that's awesome. And the best part is the pricing is straightforward. You only pay for the data that you use with no hidden overage fees or per seat pricing. And I just learned this, Brian. They provide the pro version for free to all open source projects. So if you're an open source maintainer and you want to have Scout APM for that project, just shoot them a message or something on their pricing page about that. So you can start your free trial and get instant insights today. Visit pythonbytes.fm/scout. The link is in your podcast player show notes as well. And please use that link. Don't just search for them because otherwise they don't think you came from us and then they'd stop supporting the show. So please use our link, pythonbytes.fm/scout. Check them out. It really supports the show. Indeed. Thank you.
Yes.
All right, Brian.
Well,
what's next?
Well, next is a little bit of bizarre news from the Northwest. You're probably, so I'm a little bit older than you, I think. So I don't directly remember it, but I kind of remember the meltdown at 3 Mile Island in 1979.
I'm 27. How old are you? No, I'm just kidding.
So I was born in 1970, so I was 9 years old. So it wasn't really something I was completely aware of, but we heard about it later because it was kind of a big deal. So what this was a nuclear facility in near Seattle-ish. I don't know. I'm not that good at geography. 3 Mile Island in Washington, and there were 2 reactors, and one of them did a partial meltdown, and it was a big thing. But it's the worst nuclear accident we've had in the United States. And okay, so why am I talking about this? Well, I guess I didn't realize it was still operating up until 2019. Not those reactors. There were other reactors nearby, safer. I mean, and nuclear energy has come a long way. And actually this 3 Mile thing was the reason why we have a lot of the nuclear regulations we have now. It did sort of put nuclear energy on the back burner more than it probably should have been. And I'm not going to get into the politics of whether or not we should have nuclear energy too much with that. I didn't want to get into that too much, but what I want to talk about is that it's going to start up again, or it's proposed to. So it was closed in 2019. It might open again in 2028, and it's only going to be for Microsoft. This is the bizarre bit. So Microsoft wants to start this up again and have an exclusive 20-year deal for 835 megawatts of energy, just going to AI. This seems bizarre to me. So AI needs a lot of power, and yeah, so that they're just gonna they hope this is still in proposal phase. Regulators have to approve it, but we're gonna start up another nuclear power plant just for Microsoft AI. This, I just don't get it. So there's that. And then it was this was we were linked to the Verge article. I found it on the Verge, but then I searched for it again some more, and there's just a CNN article as well, and also what looks like there's only one picture of this thing that's being used everywhere. Anyway, oh, I guess that's a different picture, but um, so gonna start up again. It seems odd. And then I um in a related news, I guess that's all I just wanted to say is I think this is weird that we're gonna start a nuclear power plant just for AI. Maybe that's a problem. Anyway, um the article I found was just it's kind of a mock news article, but this is just McSweeney's internet tendency. The article is the Department of Energy wants you to know that your conservation efforts are making a difference. So I thought we were trying to like save the planet by saving energy and stuff. And this has got some interesting bits. Says by turning off your lights all day, every day, you can conserve about 1% of the energy needed for AI to generate a picture of a duck wearing sunglasses. Isn't he cute? Aside from the fact that he has feet that are human of a human man, of course. So AI is consuming tons of energy, and we're in the rest of our lives we're trying to conserve energy. It's just a I don't know. I maybe I shouldn't brought it up as a topic. It's just seems bizarre to me. So I'll leave it there.
Yeah. Well, so I love these. Let's put your feeling bad about wasting energy or your effort to save some energy in perspective, and it's just like, yeah. I mean, I still go around and turn off the lights after my kid, who just like leaves them on.
Well, yeah, and also I've like stopped buying 25-cent light bulbs, and now we buy $8 LED light bulbs that last about the same as the other bulbs used to, and they are more I mean, we're spending way more on light bulbs.
Yeah.
And for what? So that AI can have more energy, I guess?
Yeah. So on one side, I totally see the point there. On the other, if we're gonna dump tons of energy into AI, I would much rather see it coming from carbon neutral sources than coal plants. You know?
True.
Fair,
Yes.
right, like, are you
Fair.
gonna make the duck or are you gonna not make the duck? Like, regardless of what light bulbs you're using, people are making ducks, and let's do that better. I think it's super bizarre that 3 Mile Island is the choice, because if there's anything in at least American culture that says nuclear energy bad, it's 3 Mile Island. Like, couldn't you
Oh,
pick anywhere else, you know?
yeah. Well, they're gonna change the name. It's gonna be called the Crane Clean Energy Center.
Oh, there's a good rebranding.
Uh,
That
yeah.
that said, I'm super optimistic on nuclear energy as a climate solution. Not necessarily old school 3 Mile Island stuff, but the
Yeah.
molten salt reactors, the things that fail safe and not fail explosive like Fukushima, right? I know there's nuclear waste. Those new ones are less bad. And, you know, I feel like a lot of the pushback against it, it's a little bit like, well, there's this rare endangered lizard in the desert. So we can't have in this desert any solar farms. It's like, well, if it gets 20 degrees hotter, there's going to be no lizards in the desert. We need to take some more positive action. And I feel like, nuclear energy is that sort of in the extreme, right? People have such strong reactions, but there's so much better tech now. And I would love to see
Yeah.
that
I
get
yeah,
used.
my personal views are that I think it would be good to utilize what we have, including nuclear energy, as a stopgap to get us off carbon-based uh, fuel. And then once we get that, we can get carbon neutral, then we can go to then we can beef and as we beef up solar and wind and everything, then we can maybe draw away from nuclear.
That's a great way to put it. Like, let's get rid of the carbon pollution,
Yeah,
and then we can debate of the things that are working,
yeah.
which ones are working best. Very
I
well said.
also
All right.
I also wanted to point out the excellent pun that you made, intentional or not, that with nuclear energy, people have strong reactions.
Oh, that's very good. It's very good. All right. People might have a strong reaction to this as well, but I gotta say it's way less out there. So here's the strong reaction. I think when people use Docker, so this is the Docker topic. When people use Docker, there's two philosophies. One philosophy is I want the lightest weight, simplest, most basic thing that I can possibly use to build my containers so they're insanely small, right? I want almost nothing there. I just want, if it is not needed for whatever I'm trying to do to execute, it doesn't belong there. Let's get it out of there.
Yeah.
That's one side. This topic is not from that. This topic is from the other side of perspective that I would
Okay.
say the Michael side lives on, that I live on. And that is Docker can be more difficult to understand what's going wrong, when something goes wrong, how do you fix it? How do you get other tools to see what's happening inside there? Right. And so I think there's a bunch of people that stay away from Docker because they're like, oh, I just want to have access to the logs and the tools that I normally use and all that kind of stuff inside my server or my VM so I can understand what's happening better. Right. So one of the tools I really like is Oh My Z Shell, right? With all of its plugins, its autocomplete, its cool history. And so I present to you ZSH in Docker. It installs Z Shell, Oh My Z Shell, and the plugins like autocomplete for source control and for all the various plugins that you get, right?
Okay.
From Z Shell. And it's one line. So you put this run shell out of this repo, and it just installs Z Shell. It installs Oh My Z Shell. It makes it the default shell, or you just run it when you get into it, whatever. And then all the plugins, etc. So really, really nice. You even get to pick your theme as part of the one liner, so that you can see like what version of Python is active, what is the state of a Git repo if you copied a Git repo in as part of setting up your Docker container, and all those kinds of things. So super simple. If you believe in I want some tools inside of my container, so when things are not working, I can exec into it and ask what's going on, then this is really awesome. If you don't want that, if you're on the opposite side, this is not for you.
All right. Cool.
Indeed.
So how much time do you spend in Docker?
Very little. But
Okay.
when things are not quite working, or I'm trying to figure out a command, maybe you've got a database running in there, you're like, I really need to see. I just want to see what's going on with this. And you know that inside the container, there are some database management tools. If you just Docker exec Z Shell and then you start typing, it's like you're just you've SSH in effectively. So
yeah, I might have to check that out. So I'm changing my I used to use Docker a lot for like actually cross compiling C++ code, and I'm using it more now for web stuff. And so
yeah, absolutely. I think it's great. And obviously I do a ton of stuff with Docker and for running the web apps and things, but I don't go into the web apps unless I have questions, but when you do, it's nice to just go, oh, okay, well, here's the thing. And you just make this one of your base layers of your Docker image, and it builds nice and fast.
Nice. Okay. Well, we ran through our topics. I don't have any extras today. So
you're extra-less?
I'm extra-less.
What is the opposite of extra? I don't know. I got a few.
Basic, maybe?
I guess. The bare minimums. Okay, so first one is, I remember I spoke about this Uptime Kuma a while ago. Uptime Kuma is great. So it's self-hosted, free uptime monitoring.
Okay.
Well, I put in a bunch of things. Like, for example, if you go to Python Bytes and you go to the bottom and hit server status, it'll show you the server status of Python Bytes, how old the SSL certs from Let's Encrypt are, and all those kinds of things, right? Very cool. Well, I turned that on all of my web things, including my personal blog, which this might resonate with you, Brian. It's my personal blog built with Hugo, which is a static site. So it cannot crash. It is HTML, CSS image. Like, it can't crash, right? And I thought, oh, I'm going to host this on Netlify because Netlify is pretty awesome. Right?
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I started getting every single day or every other day. Your site has a 502 error and it's been down for 10 minutes. Now it's back. It's been down. What? How could it possibly? It's a static site. So something about the Netlify infrastructure was going bonkers. And I will tell you, if you already have an Nginx server laying around somewhere, it's about 8 or 9 lines of code of Nginx configuration to just host it yourself. So I switched this over to running on a server that runs all the other things that I got. But because Netlify was crashing, so I think the takeaway is not that mkennedy.codes, my personal blog, website, etc., is hosted anywhere different. Like, why do you care? But if you're hosted on Netlify, maybe point some uptime status at your thing, even though it's a static site, shouldn't fail. Look at it anyway. Mine was for a week or two. I would say at least 2 weeks. It has been all sorts of broken temporarily. So
is it better now?
Yeah, it's perfect because why would it have any problems now? It's on our server. Yeah, it's better now. Okay. So that's number one. That's just check that out. Number two, over at Talk Python, if you go to the courses and you go to the apps, we have really nice new version that came out, I think, last year of our mobile apps for all the courses, including Brian's PyTest course. You can take it that way. The one that comes from Talk Python, that is. Well, the guy who wrote this, Lauren Augie, I had him on Talk Python when we talked about Python and mobile apps, along with some other folks. Anyway, he used to be a live sound engineer until COVID hit, and then he moved over into software development. And he wrote up a really detailed story of his life journey. And I just wanted to share that. If people are interested in that, maybe you're making that transition as well, then check that out. It's pretty cool.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. This other short one comes to us from Itmar Turner Trowing. Says it's time to stop using Python 3.8. I can't believe that, but it is. He puts it onto our radar that 14% of the packages downloaded from PyPI are for Python 3.8 installations. And by the way, next month it's going end of life, out of supported, no security fixes, nothing. So you might not want that to be your foundation if you get to choose.
Oh, we got like 7 days left of September.
Yeah, it'd be fine. I would say it's 5 weeks. What could go wrong? Anyway, just put it on your radar. Maybe Python 3.12. It's been out for a long time. Version 6 of that one just came out, so I think we're good. 3.12.6.
I also want to add to that since it's been years since I've ever had any significant issue upgrading. At most, I'll see deprecations that I have to go through and clean up, or warnings or something. But maybe other people have, but I haven't had any issues for a really long time upgrading. So
yeah, same. I did have an issue with, I can't remember. It was packages that didn't support 3.12. There was some deprecation in there that I had to wait 3 or 4 weeks before I could start using 3.12 when it first came out for some of my apps. However, that's not the same as to say that Python itself is unreliable. You would know right away if the imports fail or whatever, right? Like you'll find out straight away.
And I don't remember the reason why, but on a couple of the projects that I've converted from 3.8 to 3.12 work projects, I jumped from 3.8 to 3.10 with no issues or minor issues, and then to 3.12 fairly easy. And for some reason, it just helped me to go to 3.10 and then 3.12 seemed to be but anyway,
nice.
Your mileage may vary.
It's these kind of things that if you don't do it, you eventually end up saying, we have a 2.6 app and a 500,000 lines of code, and it's still running on Python 2.6. So don't talk to me about your fancy new libraries and your typing and your async. We're just trying to survive, but if you get into the practice of just okay, well, let's just keep this stuff moving. All those steps are generally small unless you try to take them 10 years at a time.
You're stressing me out, man. Like the like PTSD from 2-6. Ah,
All right, last thing. So passkeys. Let me ask you really quick, Brian. Are you a passkey user?
yes. Well,
All right.
passkey
A
isn't.
believer.
Well, yeah, I use passkeys. Yeah, sure.
I do too. I've been resisting using passkeys. So passkeys are cryptographic, kind of like almost like SSH keys, but for the normal normal folks for just web authentication, right? It's a cryptographic thing, blob that gets put into your whatever thing is signing in, and if it shares that back, it's supposed to be dedicated to that instance. It knows it's you. Often you can skip 2FAs, all those kind of things, right? But one of the things that really turned me off on passkeys is they felt to me like a couple of the tech giants are like, "Hey, this is a sweet opportunity for lock-in. So let's see how much lock-in we can get." Android and Apple especially, right? Like, "Hey, just save your passkey to your iPhone. What could go wrong?" I was like, "Well,
I could lose
why do I
my
need?"
iPhone.
Yeah, if I could lose my iPhone or even if it's synced to iCloud, like what I have a smart TV that says, log in with your password. It's a super pain to type in, but you can do it. Or maybe I'll go over to my Windows PC and I have to type in some password to log in. A lot of times it'll say like, "Oh, your Microsoft account is expired." It's log in again at the boot screen, so I don't get access to anything. It's like, oh my gosh, this is a pain. But those situations get way worse if you have passkeys that are dedicated to one provider, right? That's just
Yeah,
mega lock-in. So I realized that if you're a one password user, or I think also Bitwarden, I'm a user of both of them and I really like them. If you store your passkeys there, all of a sudden they live everywhere. It's beautiful. And if your computer gets destroyed, just log into one password or Bitwarden or whatever again, and you
mhm,
have them all again. So if you, at least for one password, if you go into the watchtower, there's a section that says, "Show me all the sites that could have passkeys that I don't have stored passkeys for here." And it'll help you go through and basically add them to one password, which is a form of lock-in, but a much lower grade form of lock-in in my feeling.
all right.
So anyway, I am now a believer of passkeys. I believe I went through and did that this weekend. I added like 35 accounts or so that have passkeys, and now life's a little easier. Like GitHub, for example.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah, yeah.
So
All right, you have the joke for us this week, do you not?
I do, and I thought it was gonna be a topic. I just had it in my backlog of how to monetize a blog. And then I started reading it and realized this is just a hilarious joke. And I love it. So I wanted to bring it up here. And you should either, if you're listening and not on YouTube, you should watch the video version or just go check it out yourself. We'll have a link in the show notes. Okay, so how to monetize a blog. It talks and I actually thought it was going to be advice, but it's just funny. Maintaining a blog can be a lot of work. I started reading it. You don't really need to read it. There's some fun font that shows up right away. Like here's it can become a fairly lucrative venture, and the become
Mhm.
is in this wacky font.
I
Um,
love the M, that's cool.
and then so you're going down, and you see these various things like Timber Quest advertisement. Your lumberyard awaits you, my lord. Play now, and almost all the clickable things. If you click on them, they just like pop up little coins. You don't actually go anywhere. Uh, and then talks about slapping this bad boy here can start raking in some cash through true primary means CPM or CPA. And then you just sort of, if it sort of seems reasonable, but it says look how am I doing so far. I've made 0.123 cents so far on this. Um and then it just adds it up. There's different uh various little links around that if you click on them, it increases the how much money this person's made, even though it's not real. Um, but I just started reading the ads, like here's an ad for minimal effort graphic design, um, no proofing and time saved. There's the ads are hilarious. Here's one free cruise. Sign up today. With eligible purchase meeting or exceeding value of cruise, after which no purchase is necessary. Of course, click on that guy for some extra cents. Let's see. I'll read one. The more clicks and grizzly bear sales you can squeeze out of your beloved readers, the more of their money you can siphon to spend on cheeseburger deliveries. And of course, cheeseburger deliveries is clickable.
That's got to be an affiliate link, right?
Yeah, all these things. Let's see. Here's a little weird thing ad on the side that looks like a Amazon or eBay thing. Friendship assembly, $15.95, collapsible bivalve, and a that which molts beneath enclosures toy. This is bizarre. I love these. I'm gonna scroll down more. Literal snake oil, vials of freshly squozen oil from actual snakes. Befriend a sandwich. No doctors allowed. The first mystery grab bag of unmarked vitamins is free. And then it pops up. We get a pop-up. Push notifications. Would you like to enable push notifications so you can receive intrusive alert messages like these outside of the browser? Yes, or ask me later.
You should have said yes and see if you got a coin for that.
Yeah, maybe. Let's do it again. Another one. Yes. Yeah.
Oh, you did. You're making some money for that.
Coin.
Yeah. That's
and a weird pop-up cheese cube burger now open. Let's see. We soon become. Oh, it's too bad you can't see this. This one is ice cream holding tips. We have radishes that will change your life. Ad. Let's see. Oh, these are just my mind-rending god radishes. Old school. Excuse me, a virus was detected on your computer. Send bitcoins.
It's like a Solaris window.
Anyway, and then you just sort of scroll down. It just becomes even more bizarre. You've got sideways text, and then the spiral. This is awesome. I don't even know how. So I was like, how do they do some of this stuff? It's pretty cool. Some pretty cool stuff.
It's how you monetize. That's how you do it.
Yeah, if you go all the way down, also if you actually start reading it, it says stuff like there's not actually, you just sort of have to spew out lots of words. I didn't even edit this. And then way at the bottom, there's a credits, how this was made. And then this person goes through and walks through basically all the different procedures for how to do the spiral, how to do the cool font, and all these sort of tricks with HTML and CSS and whatnot. So anyway, just a hilarious little blog on stupid ads.
That's awesome. Andre out there says this is art.
It's definitely art. Yeah.
Not art, but real-time follow-up. Bitwarden also supports PassKeys, which Bitwarden, being open source and the paid version, is insanely affordable. It's like $1, a couple dollars a year or something. I can't remember exactly what it is. Maybe that's the proper recommendation there for PassKeys. But anyway,
okay,
very cool. Yeah,
cool.
Yeah. Well, let's call it a show, huh?
Yeah, sounds good.
All right. Well, thanks for being here. Thank you everyone for listening. See y'all later.
Bye.